colleague from Arizona, as he always does, making such a strong case for the need for this body to do the hard work that we're supposed to do in actually using not just taxpayer money, but borrowed money remotely effectively. He's made the case for a long time about how mandatory spending, the spending that we have promised to people through Medicare, Social Security, and other programs, is blowing the lid off of our budget, and the need for us to get right, and that there are ways that we can solve the problem. There are ways that we could take dramatic steps to lower the cost of health care, which the gentleman from Arizona talks about regularly, about the need for us to do to drive down the cost of health care so that we can actually contain this beast that is consuming our expenditures and causing us to have to borrow so much money, weaken ourselves against China, and so forth. So I thank the gentleman from Arizona for his consistency on this matter. Would that our body or even our own conference be so consistent in having an interest in having that conversation. I would note again for my constituents, for those people across the country, all of you that are watching this on C-SPAN, that I'm speaking to an empty chamber. This is what we do. This is debate on the floor of the United States House of Representatives. We come down, we have 5 votes earlier today, I think 4, one got wiped off. We have 4 votes on 2 amendments, right? There are amendments that are offered in the Rules Committee where the powers that be decide what we get to debate on the floor of the House. I'm a member of the United States Congress with an election certificate for the 700 and some odd thousand people in Central Texas that I represent. And yet I have never had the opportunity to offer an amendment on the floor of the House of Representatives. This is not the people's house. This is a house of a handful of hand-selected individuals on both sides of the aisle who sit in a back room and decide what we get to debate about and what we get to discuss and what we get to vote on. And my colleagues on both sides of the aisle know this, yet this is what we continue to do. I gave a speech a little while back in December about the United States House of Free Stuff, because that's what we are. Neither party has ever met a bill that they're not willing to vote for because it sounds good, right? It doesn't matter how much it costs. It doesn't matter what it means in terms of debt. As my colleague from Arizona was just talking about in terms of her debt, just doesn't matter. Because we're the United States House of Free Stuff. You got a bill that sounds good. You got a problem you want to solve? Come to Congress. We'll write you a bill. We'll print some money. Because there's no consequence to printing the money. Now, in what world is that a way to govern? The world is supposedly looking at us as being this august institution of the people's house. And here I sit alone. My colleagues have headed off the airport to fly home. We'll come back on Monday. We'll punch through a no doubt really important list of predetermined items decided by some Rules Committee people, dropped on the floor and say, take it or leave it, vote yes or no. Boy, that's inspirational. Looking at how a bill becomes a law. Schoolhouse Rock laughs at us because there is no debate. There is no amendment. Both sides just come down here and they vote to spend more money we don't have in order to buy your votes. Well, my message to the American people is, are you for sale? Are the American people for sale? By listening to every member of this body go home and tell you all of the stuff they're bringing back home for you with borrowed money. Well, we've got a decision to make about how we're going to spend the people's money in the next 14 days. Did we have a debate this week? Did we have a debate this week about the continuing resolution? No. That is the bill that is continuing to fund government that expires on February 18th. Did my Democrat colleagues, did the Speaker come down and offer a appropriations package or bill and say, hey, let's have a debate and a discussion about how we should spend the people's money and borrow more money in order to carry out the functions and our obligations? No, we haven't had that debate. We voted on a garbage piece of legislation today that will do nothing to check China while we're sending our athletes over to bow down to the Chinese and allow them to take center stage on the world stage. China, never mind all the slave camps, never mind what they're doing around the world, never mind the espionage, never mind the cyber attacks.